Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Tuesday, it is match day, of course. Arsenal in action a little bit later on, playing Sporting over in Lisbon. Big game, this one on the back of the defeat last time out in the Champions League, of course, to Inter Milan. Arsenal need to get back on track if they want to get themselves a top 8 finish in this league phase. 3 points tonight would certainly do them world of good when it comes to that. Probably, you would say, the toughest fixture they've got left in this Champions League phase. If you could go there, win away from home, definitely put them in a good position with the remaining games to come. So we're going to talk about that in the show. The usual stuff. We'll go over my predicted 11 for this game. Lots of you getting in touch. Thank you very much for that, sharing what you would like to see from Mikel Arteta tonight. So I'll rattle through some of those as well. We'll look at what Mikel's been saying. He was speaking last night in Lisbon at his pre-match press conference, alongside David Raya. Spoke about the latest team news, Kieran Tierney's return. Wasn't very keen to get involved in questions on Victor Gyokeres. David Raya speaking a little bit more on Gyokeres and the threat that he will carry tonight for Sporting. But Mikel Arteta very keen to not get involved in that, shall we say, when he was asked a couple of questions on the Sporting striker who has been heavily linked, of course, to Arsenal over the last 6 months or so. So plenty to get stuck into. Like I said, a really big game, this one, I think, for Arsenal, on the back of what happened at Inter before the previous international break. I was obviously over in Milan for that game. It was a decent enough performance for Arsenal. They dominated large periods of it. But as has been the way away from home in the Champions League for Arsenal, they just couldn't score. They paid the price for that, losing 1-0 to that penalty just before half-time, despite dominating large periods of that game. So they need to try and bounce back from that and get 3 points against a really tough, difficult Sporting side who, of course, smashed Manchester City just a few weeks ago. 4-1 in this very stadium. Gyokeres, who we've already mentioned, scoring a hat-trick in that game. Yes, there's been some changes at Sporting since then. Ruben Amorim obviously has left and has taken over at Manchester United. Will that have any impact? We'll have to wait and see. But it is a big game for Arsenal against a really tricky side. A side, of course, beat Arsenal in the Europa League just a couple of seasons ago, knocked them out at the Emirates on that penalty shootout, of course. Team look like they're in decent spirits, trained at London Colney yesterday before flying out to Lisbon the night before the game. Obviously had the press conference over there. Pretty much everyone involved, which is good news. Only 2 players missing for Arsenal. The 2 we know about, the long-term absentees, Tomiyasu, of course, and Ben White. But apart from that, absolutely everyone involved, including, of course, Kieran Tierney, who has travelled with the squad and is going to be part of the squad for tonight's game. Mikel was asked about who's available. He said everyone who is in the squad is fully fit to start. We have Kieran Tierney with us after a long injury. It's great news that he's back. He's been training with us and he's available to participate. And it is massive news for Tierney, first of all. Look, I'm not expecting Tierney to force his way into the side over the coming weeks. And I still think the most likely scenario when it comes to Kieran is that he ends up going on loan in January. But just to see him back after so long out, after battling back from yet another injury, of course, he sustained it in the Euros, playing for Scotland this time. That long battle back to get himself fit. It's just great to see him on the training pitch again, and great to see him getting on the plane yesterday. It'll make him feel so much better as well. You know, mentally, it must have been a really, really tough time for him yet again. So to get back along, you just saw the smile on his face in training yesterday. I thought, he just looks happy, and it's understandable. And he's got a lot to bring to this squad if he does need to be called upon. You know, he's got an awful lot to offer. We all know how good Kieran Tierney is. We all know how popular he was when he arrived at Arsenal and the work he did and how influential he was in the first couple of years of Arteta's rebuild here. So great to see him back, and it would be nice to see him on the pitch. I'm not sure we will tonight, but I'm sure we probably will over the coming weeks. I mean, definitely looking at that game against Crystal Palace in the League Cup quarterfinal that Arsenal got coming up in a couple of weeks' time. You'd imagine if Tierney's fit, he's going to be involved in that game, and I bet it'll get a massive, massive reception at the Emirates. Mikel was asked on how important it would be to make a statement with an away win today. He said it's certainly something we have to improve. We have to have the right steps, and looking back on the way we played against Inter, a team that has been so dominant in their league. We're in the Champions League final and we should have won it. We played and dominated the game. We should have won. But the reality is you have to make it happen, and we didn't. Those steps are what we have to take next. Be ruthless and be much more efficient in the opposition box. When we get there, we do it. And when we get there, do what we have to do to take the 3 points away. And that was the issue against Inter, obviously. They didn't have a bucket load of opportunities, but they did have opportunities. And they didn't take them. And you've got to take them in the Champions League away from home. And Arsenal just haven't done that for a long time. I think you've got to go back to was it Eddie Nketiah's goal in the knockout, in the group stages last season against PSV was the last time Arsenal scored an away goal in the Champions League. You're going to go deep in this competition. That can't continue. You've got to start scoring. You've got to pick up some points away from home. It's very difficult, but you do have to start picking up some points away from home. So hopefully Arsenal can get that off their back tonight and can get themselves a goal or two. And if they do that, then with the defence they've got, you would expect they're going to be very, very close to walking away with maximum points. On the away form, Mikel was asked about sort of explaining why it's been so poor, and he said, not all of the games have been the same. It's true that some of those games we'd already qualified, but it's true we have to improve the results and we have to find ways to understand what has been missing. Sometimes it's been performance, to be fair, and sometimes it's been different aspects. And that's the next step we have to make on the team on not scoring in 4 consecutive away games in the Champions League. And if it was down to inexperience, he said, I wouldn't say that's the most important thing, but the efficiency we have shown inside the box at this level with a number of chances you're normally able to generate in the Champions League has not been at the level that is required to win consistently. I always say the Champions League is about the boxes, small margins and details. You have to get those right to win, especially away from home. Now, put this man in your side, you've probably got a better chance of scoring goals, certainly judging by the record that he's had in recent years. Victor Gyokeres, of course, a player we know all about. He's been heavily linked with Arsenal. He's a player that we know Arsenal have looked at in the past. No one made the move for him in the summer. Not Arsenal, not anyone else pulled the trigger and went for that release clause after that remarkable season he enjoyed at Sporting last time out. He's continued that vein of form this season, scoring left, right and centre, contributing every single week to goals. As I said, scored a hat-trick against Man City the other day, scored 4 for Sweden the other day during the international break as well. And always linked with Arsenal. Mikel was asked how good Gyokeres is and how to stop him. This was his response. I would like to talk about the team, the coaches and how phenomenal they have been. The run they're on is incredible. And that tells you not only about their qualities, but their ambition, the team energy they have. That's a great challenge that we have to come here, make a statement and show we are capable against this kind of opponent to be ourselves and win the game. He was then asked again specifically about Gyokeres. Someone with a follow-up question asked him if he's the classic new modern day striker. And he said, I understand the question, but they have shown a lot of individual qualities and that's why they're able to win games in various ways. Yes, in certain positions, they have tremendous players. He just wasn't going anywhere. The carrot was being dangled by the journalists in the room, as you can imagine. It was the obvious questions to be asking, but Arteta was not going there. He just was not touching it. Immediately going away from talking about an individual instead to talking about the team. And he does that a lot. He even does that about his own players. If an Arsenal player's had a really good game, and you go into the press conference, the amount of times I sat in a press conference afterwards at Emirates and you try and get him to talk about someone who scored 2 or 3 goals, but he'll immediately change it to the team rather than single out an individual. And he did it again here with Gyokeres, which is totally understandable. David Raya was asked about him as well, because Raya was doing a press conference with Arteta, and he said a little bit more about Gyokeres when he was asked about him. He said, we know about his strengths, how he runs in behind and scores lots of goals 1v1. We're going to try and keep him quiet. Hopefully we can do a great job and keep a clean sheet. And it's going to be a challenge. If Arsenal want to get anything from this game, they're going to have to stop Gyokeres. They're going to have to try and stop the supply to him, and they're going to have to try and stop that space in behind, which David Raya points out he loves to get in. It's how he scores an awful lot of his goals. Score. The one goal he scored against Man City, for example, was that sort of getting him behind and beating Ederson with a finish, or Ortega with a finish, whoever it was in goal. And he got away just before that as well and had a poor finish that he chipped straight into the goalkeeper's hands. So Arsenal are going to need to be aware of him. They will be aware of him. I think he's also the sort of striker that Saliba and Gabriel are going to relish going up against. They love that kind of challenge. You see it when they play Haaland, and I'm sure they're going to love it tonight. If they can keep him quiet, that'll be another bow in their cap. Bow in their cap, is that the right phrase? I'm not sure. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Certainly, I think all eyes are going to be on Gyokeres, aren't they? I'm looking forward to watching him. Hopefully, looking forward to him struggle, to be honest, against Saliba and Gabriel. But it's going to be very eye-opening, I think, having a real proper look at him for 90 minutes against this Arsenal defence. Right, predicted 11-wise, this is what I'm going for. There was a few things that I was arming and ahhing about in terms of what I think Mikel will do. I think he'll make some changes from the team we saw at the weekend. I think Havertz is definitely going to come back in. I'd be very surprised if Havertz doesn't play up front. I think Martinelli will come back in. It's just the midfield that I'm in an ahhing about. Do you keep Jorginho in that role that he played so well for the first 45 minutes? Had he not been booked at the weekend, he would have played 60, 70 minutes. I have no doubt about that against Nottingham Forest. He was playing really, really well. So do you keep him back in? Do you bring Thomas Partey back in for this game? I still think they're probably going to err on the side of the caution with Declan Rice at the moment. I was watching him when I was recording my video in the press box after the game on Saturday. I watched the when the subs all come out and they do their warm down game on the pitch, Rice wasn't even involved in that. He was on his own with a fitness instructor, just doing sort of runs up and down the pitch. He absolutely wasn't ready. They had him on the bench just in case he might have been needed, but they were very happy they didn't have to call upon him because he's not 100% fit yet. And I do wonder again if we might see them wait until the weekend potentially to bring him back into action. So I don't think Rice will play. I think it'll be between Partey and Jorginho to play in that number 6. I think he'll stick with Marino and Odegaard ahead of him. So I think that's the main big decision. I think the defence picks itself for this game as well. So my predicted 11, what I think Mikel will go for today is Raya in goal, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori. Then I'm going with Partey, Odegaard, Marino, Saka, Havertz, Martinelli. That's what I think he will go for. I wouldn't be stunned if he played Jorginho instead of Partey. We'll wait and see on that. And here's what some of you guys have been saying. Agile Chris at the top there. His lineup is Raya, Partey at right back, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Jorginho, Odegaard, Marino, Saka, Havertz, and Martinelli. He says, need to protect our first choice fullbacks for Premier League games. Both have been injured recently, and White and Tommy are injured. The Pundit 99 says, I have a feeling Arteta wanted to throw Sporting off by not exposing his game and players for the Champions League game. I'm sure Sporting don't know what to expect. Same team or change team. The mind games are really good in Europe. The Mouth Jedi says, hey, Charles, love your consistent quality content. Thank you very much. 2 quick points from across the pond. Totally agree that though Arteta missed a trick by not starting Ethan a couple of times when Odegaard was injured. Overall, though, we have to trust Arteta's judgment. Second is the lineup against Sporting. For me, it is Raya in goal, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and Calafiori, Partey, Odegaard, Marino, Saka, Havertz, and Martinelli. Same one that I've gone for there. A few more of you now. We've got one from Dylan. Says Neymar, Mount, Gavi, and Pedri. So many players that have played an unprecedented amount of games at a young age, and look at their injury records now. Foden, on the other hand, is regularly available and fit. Ethan is being introduced in a way that is sustainable for his career. As frustrating as it is at times, Mikel appears to be doing the right thing. Danilo says, I would like to see Partey, Havertz, and Rice start tonight, for sure. I think it's likely that Saka starts, but I wouldn't mind seeing Sterling play significant minutes, even from the left. Shaq Torre says, all this brick by brick talk from Arteta is nonsense. Fabregas and Wilshere were thrown in and they performed. If 4 Barcelona players under 18 can play week in, week out, Arsenal are nowhere near the stature of Barca. I'm not sure Wilshere's a very good example to use there. I have to say, Shaq Torre, considering, yes, he was thrown in, but unfortunately his career never got going properly because he was injured, because he played so many minutes at such a young age, his body couldn't cope with it. And that's why he broke down and ended up having to retire at 29 and didn't achieve anywhere near what he should have been able to achieve. Such was his talent, because his body couldn't handle it. So I'm not sure that's the best example of why Arteta should be playing Ethan more at this age. Young King says, my starting 11 against Sporting will be Raya in goal, Timber, Calafiori, Gabriel, and Saliba. Midfield 3 will be Partey, Rice, and Odegaard, while in attack, Martinelli, Havertz, and Bukayo Saka. A few more now to get through before we've wrapped this one up for today. Aaron says Gyokeres is the biggest threat in Sporting, obviously. Also a very good chance to see him up close. I think it will be a game where Arsenal's scouting team will keep a close eye on him. If he can score past Gabriel and Saliba after the Man City performance, Arsenal should go all in for him in the summer. Yeah, I think the clamour for Arsenal to sign Gyokeres, if he does tear him apart tonight, will become almost unbearable. Bjorn Wiese simply says, never change a winning team. So he'd stick with the same starting 11 by that statement, I presume, that beat Nottingham Forest so well at the weekend. And John says, hey, Charles, looking at the Sporting game, I think the first thing to say is it won't be the same lineup as the Inter game. White is out of that lineup for a start, and we have Odegaard and others back. I think Arteta will go very strong, as we need to win to keep our hopes of a top 8 finish. Not sure Rice is ready. I'll go with Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and Calafiori, Odegaard, Partey, and Marino, Saka, Havertz, and Martinelli. So that's what you guys have been saying in the build-up to tonight's game. Some difference of opinions there. But I think sort of on the whole, I think we can all sort of get on board with what the 11 will be, give or take maybe a couple of positions, mainly in midfield. I think are the big sort of question marks there. But I definitely think we'll be seeing Kai Havertz back in. I'll be very surprised if Gabriel Jesus leads the line, and also think Martinelli comes back in on the left-hand side. And that's it from me for today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything after the game tonight. I'm watching it at my dad's house. Obviously, I'm not going over to Lisbon for this one. I'm not sure if I will do a sort of immediate post-match reaction to it, because it is going to be pretty late by that point. So I might just wait and do it in the morning. But as usual, if you want to get involved in tomorrow's sort of in-depth reaction show, get down reply to this video after full time. Go down into the comments, give me your thoughts on the game, who impressed you, who didn't impress you, anything you want me to discuss in tomorrow's reaction show. Reply to it in the comments underneath this video. I'll pull some of them together and get them included in the show. Until then, have a very good Tuesday. Enjoy the game later, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.